Behind the one-way mirror, Larry Reynolds watched the mourners arrive for his own funeral. He had faked his death to test his 3 adult children. From the dark office, the chapel looked serene, but tension simmered beneath the surface. Brandon and Jessica sat in the front pew, their whispers cutting through the organ music.
The beach house is mine. You had your chance to buy in years ago.
I need it more. My medical bills are massive, and you know it.
That's not my problem. Dad would have wanted me to have it.
In the back row, Ryan sat alone, his face buried in his hands as he wept.
Larry's chest tightened. He had pegged Ryan as the cold one, but there was nothing cold about those tears. Something was wrong. The test was supposed to be simple. Ryan wasn't playing the part he'd expected.
The argument in the front pew grew sharper, their voices bouncing off the stained glass.
You know I need the beach house proceeds for my treatments, Brandon. It's not a luxury.
Please, you exaggerate everything. Dr. Miller said your condition is manageable with medication.
Larry's jaw tightened behind the glass. The casual cruelty in his son's voice felt like a verdict.
And yet here you are, already fighting over his assets. Real grief.
In the back row, Ryan's sobs turned into ragged, wet gasps for air.
Larry had been so sure about each of them. Now, watching Ryan fall apart, nothing made sense.
Fine. Take the house. But when the will is read, we'll see who Dad really loved.
The accusation landed like a stone in still water, and Brandon's face went red.
This wasn't the test he'd planned. The pieces weren't fitting the way they should.
The minister stepped forward, his eulogy slicing through the tense silence. He spoke of duty, of a life's work, and the quiet legacy that survives only in the memories of those who truly loved. Larry's gaze drifted to Ryan in the back row. His shoulders shook with each muffled sob.
That kind of raw, unguarded sorrow didn't fit Larry's suspicion of the cold, distant son he thought he knew.
A soft click behind him. Paul, the funeral director, stepped inside, his steps careful, a cream envelope in his hand.
A woman left this here 3 weeks ago. She said you'd come for it eventually.
Larry took the envelope. The paper was thick, expensive, with no markings. The question hung in the air. Paul offered no further explanation.
Larry turned it over in his hands. Who would leave something for a dead man at his own funeral? This wasn't part of the plan. A variable he hadn't accounted for.
Larry tilted the envelope toward the light. The handwriting was delicate and achingly familiar.
That slant, that loop on the L. He hadn't seen it in years, but he'd know it anywhere. Catherine.
His hand trembled slightly as he held it. Paul stood in silence, watching with a slow, careful motion. Larry slid his finger under the flap and began to unseal it. The paper inside was the same cream stock, covered in Catherine's cursive, filling the page.
He hadn't expected a message from the dead. The test was his design, not hers.
The ink was faintly smudged in places, as if tears had fallen on it while it was written.
And yet, here it was. A letter from his wife, delivered to his own funeral.
Larry unfolded the pages. The chapel organ swelled, but to him, the room fell silent.
He stood frozen, letter in hand, his world shifting. What had she written?
Larry's eyes dropped to the first line, the familiar handwriting pulling him in. The letter began, "Larry, if you are reading this, you've tested them and you've learned." The words hit him like a physical blow. She knew. She had known all along.
She predicted I'd do something dramatic. How? I hadn't even planned the test then.
Through the mirror, Brandon's voice cut in, sharp and bitter.
You think playing victim gets you more. Dad saw through that years ago.
At least I am not grabbing everything before the dirt settles on his grave.
Their arguments scraped against him, but the letter anchored his mind elsewhere.
Catherine had left this for him. She trusted he'd read it when the time came.
He kept reading, his hands unsteady, the chapel's noise a distant murmur. The next lines of the letter were a shattering confession, written in Catherine's careful hand. "Forgive Ryan. He's the one I never told you about. He's been sending half his salary to fund Jessica's medical bills for 2 years and never said a word." Larry read it twice, the ink blurring as his eyes filled.
Ryan, the quiet one, the one I dismissed as cold. He was carrying them both. All this time, I measured them by the wrong yardstick. Oh, son, I didn't know.
The letter continued, but those words had already done their work.
He hid his sacrifice to protect his sister's pride, and I never noticed.
Larry's grand test, his illusion of control, collapsed into ash.
Catherine knew he'd need this truth. She knew he'd fail without her.
Larry lifted his eyes from the page and looked through the one-way mirror. The rest of the letter was a trembling plea from beyond. Don't punish them for being human. Come home. See, his hand trembled as he lowered the letter.
Through the glass, Ryan's sobs were not weakness. They were the sound of a man drowning under a hidden truth. He had built this test to measure loyalty, and his son had been passing it in silence for years. The child he had dismissed as cold was the only one who truly grasped what family demanded. Catherine was right. He had to come home, but not as a phantom behind glass. Forgiveness written in ink meant nothing without action.
He folded the letter with the reverence of holding her hand one final time.
Are you all right, Larry? You've been standing there for some time.
Larry nodded, but it was a hollow gesture, an automatic reflex. His mind was still trapped inside the letter.
We should list it by Monday. The market won't wait for our grief.
Fine. But I want my name on the title too. Not just yours.
Catherine's voice still echoed. Don't punish them for being human. But this felt like punishment designed by greed.
Through the mirror, Brandon scrolled on his phone. A realtor's app already pulled up.
You already contacted someone. Of course you did.
Paul cleared his throat behind Larry, subtle but pointed.
That letter. It was from your wife, wasn't it? The one who passed 2 years ago.
Yes, and now I have to figure out what to do with the truth she handed me.
Larry glanced again at the letter, his thumb tracing the date at the top, 3rd of May, 2022. 3 months before she passed.
She knew me better than I knew myself. She wrote this before I had even conceived the lie.
The realization struck harder than any grief. Catherine had built him a bridge from the grave.
This wasn't just a letter. It was a last act of love, a pardon he didn't deserve.
He stepped closer to the mirror, pressing his palm flat against the cool glass.
I am sorry, Catherine.
His lips moved soundlessly, the name caught in the condensation of his breath.
She had planned her final words for this exact moment of reckoning.
He stood there, the letter and the mirror, 2 windows into a past he could not repair. Larry slipped the folded letter into the inner pocket of his jacket, the paper stiff against his chest.
It's time, Paul. I need to walk through those doors.
I'll unbolt the side entrance. Just nod when you are ready.
Larry gave a single nod, then focused on his reflection in the dark glass. He straightened his tie with practiced hands, the ritual of final armor. Behind him, Paul's soft footsteps moved toward the hallway. The heavy door to the chapel corridor already stood ajar, a slice of amber light spilling into the dim office.
Catherine, you brought me here. Now help me finish it.
He turned his back on the mirror, the glass now holding nothing but an empty room. The door waited. A threshold between the man he'd been and the man he needed to become. Larry stepped into the narrow corridor, his footsteps echoing on the polished floor. The sound was louder than any organ, a countdown to a moment he couldn't reverse. Above him, through a small archway, the chapel chandelier glowed, a distant amber star.
Every step felt heavier, as if Catherine were walking beside him, steadying his resolve.
He passed the closed door of the vestry, then the choir loft stairwell, each threshold, a silent witness. Through the sliver of the side entrance, he glimpsed the chapel, the backs of mourners, the gleam of the casket.
Ryan was there, shoulder shaking, still crying. The sight cut deeper now, knowing the truth.
Larry paused, his hand resting on the doorframe, the letter a weight against his heart.
Catherine, guide me. I've run out of clever plans.
He stood at the edge, unseen, the door waiting for a push he wasn't sure he had.
She said you'd come, Larry. She told me the day she left it.
She was always right. about everything.
The door hinges creaked as Larry pressed his weight against the old wood. A sliver of amber light widened, slicing across the dark corridor floor. From the chapel, the minister's voice rose in a reading from Ecclesiastes, the solemn words muffled but steady. Through the crack, Larry could see the edge of the casket, the bowed heads of strangers, the white flowers trembling in the air conditioning.
Paul's assurance echoed in his mind. She believed in you. That single truth felt heavier than any plan.
Larry squared his shoulders, the fine wool of his jacket pulling tight across his back. He pushed the door farther, the old hinges groaning in protest at the intrusion. He pulled the door open further, the light spreading across his face, and the world on the other side grew loud with the final hymn. Larry's first footstep landed silently on the chapel carpet, the thick pile swallowing the sound. The minister's voice rose. For everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven.
They haven't noticed a thing. Still fighting over scraps while Ryan weeps alone.
The minister's prayer ended with a soft amen. A few mourners shifted in the pews. Behind Larry, the side door gave a final faint creak, the sound slicing through the silence. An elderly woman in a back pew turned her head, her ear catching the noise. Larry froze, his breath caught in his throat, every muscle locked. But she only adjusted her shawl and faced forward again. The moment passed. Ryan's worn shoes remained planted on the chapel carpet, his shoulders still shaking. Larry exhaled and took another silent step, deeper into the chapel, still unseen. Larry moved deeper into the chapel, his silhouette dark against the glow of altar candles. An elderly mourner in the side pew drew a sharp, ragged gasp, her hand flying to her mouth. The sound carried, and dozens of heads swiveled toward the side entrance with a collective gasp. Jessica's face went completely white, her eyes locking onto a figure that could not be there. Larry did not stop. His stride was slow, deliberate, the same calm he had wielded in 1,000 negotiations.
Daddy?
The single word hung in the air, fragile and disbelieving, a prayer to a ghost. Larry walked on, his gaze bypassing the casket and the flowers, seeking only the back row where Ryan wept. Jessica's hand pressed hard against her mouth, her body trembling as she sank slowly against the pew. The minister's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. The funeral had shattered into chaos. Brandon twisted in the front pew, his face contorting as he took in the impossible sight.
What the?
The minister's sermon notes fluttered from his hands, scattering across the polished floor. Jessica's knees buckled, and she crumpled toward the aisle, a small cry escaping her lips. Brandon lunged forward, catching her before she hit the hardwood, but his eyes stayed locked on Larry. The mourners were on their feet now, a sea of frightened faces beneath the amber sconces. Larry walked on, his pace unchanged, his eyes never leaving the back row. The minister finally found his voice, a strangled echo that went unheard in the uproar. Brandon's curse was followed by a string of disbelief as he supported Jessica's limp form. The organist stopped playing. The silence that followed was louder than any hymn. In the back row, Ryan's sobs stuttered into silence, his tear-streaked face lifting toward the center aisle. Slowly, as if moving through water, Ryan stood, his hands gripping the pew back for support. Larry stopped walking. The chaos around them faded to a distant hum. Ryan's mouth formed a single word, fragile and cracked from weeping. "Dad?" Larry nodded once, his jaw tight, his own eyes wet. A single tear cut a new path down Ryan's cheek, dropping onto the collar of his ill-fitting suit.
I thought you were gone forever.
Larry had no words, only the letter over his heart, and the impossible weight of what he owed this boy.
The distance between them was only a few feet, but it held a decade of silence. Larry closed the distance in 3 slow steps, each one heavier than the last. He reached out and placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder, the wool of the jacket rough beneath his fingers. Ryan's entire frame shuddered, a dam breaking behind his eyes. He collapsed forward, and Larry caught him, folding him into an embrace that spoke of decades of missed chances.
I know, son. I know now. I am sorry.
I thought you were gone. I thought I'd never get to tell you.
The hug tightened, a desperate, aching grip that neither man wanted to release.
Catherine saw this. She knew what Ryan needed, and what I needed to know.
Around them, the chapel remained frozen, a tableau of shock and confusion that had ceased to matter. Ryan's sobs quieted into trembling breaths, but he didn't let go. Neither did Larry. Across the chapel, Brandon's face twisted from shock into raw fury. He released Jessica's arm and stepped forward.
You faked your death to test us? What kind of sickness is that?
Jessica moaned, still dazed, but her eyes found Larry and filled with hurt. Larry kept one arm around Ryan and faced his other children with a quiet that was louder than any shout.
I had to know who you really were, not who you pretended to be when I was alive.
He reached into his jacket and pulled out the cream envelope, holding it up like evidence from another life.
Your mother knew I'd do this. She left me a letter predicting the whole thing.
Mom, she knew?
This is insane. You staged all this to see if we'd be good enough.
Number. To see why Ryan has been sending half his paycheck to cover Jessica's medical bills in secret for 2 years. That's the truth I learned.
The chapel went silent. Brandon's chest heaved, his hands curling into fists at his sides.
You are insane. All of you. I am done.
He spun on his heel and stormed down the aisle, the heavy doors crashing shut behind him.
How could you, Daddy? How could you do this to us?
She pulled away from the helping hands and stumbled after her brother, too hurt to look back. Larry turned to Ryan, still tucked against his side, and spoke softly, for him alone.
Thank you. For Jessica. For everything you never told me.
She needed it. And you needed to know, I guess.
Larry pulled him closer, the letter still a quiet presence in his pocket. The chapel emptied slowly, mourners slipping away like ghosts, leaving only the scent of lilies and the echo of a borrowed funeral. Only Larry and Ryan remained in the vast, empty chapel, the last light of the afternoon filtering through stained glass.
Your mother told me everything, Ryan. She left this letter so I'd know what you've been doing.
Larry pulled the creased pages from his pocket and held them out like a fragile offering.
She knew. How?
She knew you were sending half your salary for Jessica's treatments. She knew your silence was love, not indifference.
I just wanted her to be okay. Dad, I am sorry I didn't tell you.
You have nothing to be sorry for. I am the one who was blind.
Ryan broke down again, but this time it was relief, a cleansing flood that washed away years of hidden weight. Larry put his arm around his son, and together they walked toward the open doors. The afternoon sun spilled over them as they stepped out, leaving the empty chapel and its borrowed casket behind. That evening, in the quiet of his mahogany study, Larry sat alone. The family estate documents were spread before him, his old will already marked void.
Equal thirds would be fair. But Ryan had already given more than any inheritance could repay.
He picked up his fountain pen and dipped the nib in dark ink. The new pages were crisp, awaiting his signature. The clause was simple. The estate and the house shall pass solely to Ryan. Larry signed his name with a steady hand, the final stroke a quiet release.
There, no more tests. Only what he owed.
He blotted the ink and set the pen aside. The study felt lighter now. Catherine's letter lay on the corner of the desk, still folded, a promise he would keep forever. He carried the letter from the study to the bedroom, its weight no longer a burden. On the dresser, Catherine's photograph watched him, her smile unchanged by the years. He opened a drawer and took out a simple wooden frame, untouched until now. With steady hands, he unfolded the letter and pressed it beneath the glass. He set the frame on the nightstand, beside the lamp, where it would greet every morning. The click of the lamp plunged the room into a familiar darkness. He lay in the hush, the framed letter, a silent sentinel at his bedside. Hours later, the first pale light of dawn slipped through the curtains. The sun caught the glass, and her words glowed with a warmth that outlasted the grave. Larry slept on, the promise kept, the house finally still.